Welcome to In a Nutshell, the podcast dedicated to all things agricultural consulting. I'm Dylan Brush here with soil genius and ag consultant Bill Brush, and we're delighted to accompany you on this journey where we break down the different aspects of agricultural consulting. In each episode, we'll dive into the realm of agriculture through the eyes of Bill Brush, where consultants like Bill play a vital role in empowering farmers, agribusiness, and agricultural organizations. If you're passionate about agriculture, problem solving, and enjoy a little bit of detective work, this podcast is tailor-made for you.
Hi, welcome back. This is Bill Brush with another episode of In a Nutshell. The thing I'm going to talk about today, it's not exclusive to agriculture, but it's really well known in agriculture, and that's co-ops. What is a co-op? Is short for cooperatives. And, there's housing co-ops. There's a lot of other co-ops that you'll, find. And what it is basically is putting together people together to do a specific function, and then they own the business that collectively, all of the people that are involved, and so they're able to have inputs, and based on the profitability of the company or co-op, they can actually realize money back to them or reduced costs. And I'm going to talk to them, but a co-op is so widespread. There are a lot of good beneficial tax benefits to it that help you, and there's reasons that you can belong to it, and the profitability you don't have to pay on until you actually get the money, and we'll talk about a lot of those things. So it has lots of advantages. It has some real disadvantages if you're not careful. So I hope to cover the ins and outs of cooperatives because they're really big in agriculture. If you go back to the Midwest, I've been many times, and there's tons and tons of cooperatives, and some of them are of different types, but I'll go through what I see as the basic three types of cooperative that we see. And first start with kind of one of the standards, which is what I call a supply cooperatives, which is they manage a business that takes all or most of the inputs that farms need. Some will just be fertilizer, agrochemicals, could be seed, it could be 3 or 4 different things. Some will be the full gamut where they'll have like a hardware store full of all things that you might need, and fencing, as well as those same things that we talked about, fertilizer, agrochemicals, and the crop protection materials that we use, all those things, okay? And the way they work is because of the size, they're able to buy a lot at one time, so they get it at a reduced price. And so then they distribute those all out to their members. And a lot of them don't even have to be a member to be able to buy from them, but you won't partake in any of the profitability. But a supply cooperative, if you think about it, they have to be reasonably close to their competitors in price, because if not, you're going to be too expensive for farmers to use you on a regular basis. So you need to be really competitive on your price that you pay through that cooperative. Well, once that seasons went by and the cooperative made some money, then that money then is distributed back in the form of what we call retains or patronage. 2 forms of things. A lot of times patronage is usually a cash payment that comes back to you that offsets some of the cost. So if you paid a little bit more, now you've got some cash and maybe now you're equal and whole again. And then the retains are what are the managing part, basically the capital that cooperative needs to operate. And so they put your profit in there, and that profit stays in there for a period of time. This is where a lot of the cooperatives really get bad reputations or don't run their business properly and don't capitalize it well enough. That revolving fund is only going to be effective if you keep it as short as you can. Now, supply doesn't keep a lot of margin. A lot of them run at 2 to 5%. 5% is kind of the exception. Most of them are down at 1 and 2%. So they don't have a lot. So they need to capitalize the business property. And if you're in a fertilizer business, which I have a lot of experience in, it's very, very capital intensive. The spreaders and the big trucks and trailers and the fertilizer plant that you've got to put products together. Anyway, it's very, very capital intensive. So most of them are a fairly long capitalization schedule or revolving fund schedule, and they're at least 10 years. And then what happens to a lot of them that they have a bad year and now they're out to 11 because they can't pay you out your retains, and they can get deeper and deeper and deeper, and they keep holding on to it. And at some point, it's not a revolving fund anymore. It's just a pile of money that you can't get to. And so that's one of the demises to a lot of them. They say, well, what good is that money there? I'd never get it, so it doesn't mean anything. So that's what I always say. Any cooperative of any of the kinds I'm going to talk about have to maintain what? They have to be a good business first, you know? That's what makes a cooperative usually good. They have to be run by a good management team. They have to have a great board of directors that sets out the guidelines for the cooperative, hires the management, and then follows the money. And that's really their major three functions of a good board of directors. Follow how much money did we make, where did it go, and how much is left, and what did we do with it, and making sure it's all there. It's their fiduciary responsibility to do that. Well, on the other side of that coin, they also don't need to be in the day-to-day business of the cooperative. That's what you're hiring a management for. And if management is not doing a good job, do not be, afraid to change management, because management will change on you. If they find a better opportunity, a CEO or a general manager will leave you. So you have to make sure that you have a good one and you want to retain him, and he does a good job and likes being there and doing that job. And you're on the first couple steps of having a good business. He's got to be on top of it, run an efficient, well-oiled machine, and has good employees, and keeps those employees with good, retirement benefits and all those things, and pays them, and it has a good work environment to stay there. That's that first is a supply co-op. They're real rough to go because you always are fighting pricing from the major for-profit companies, and there's a lot of them out there. And you might be competing against 3 or 4 different ones, one that just sells seed, or one that just sells hardware, or one that just sells fertilizer. All of those together they focused in on 1 or 2 items, and they make sure that they're really priced right there, and they can be hard competitors. So it is a really, really skinny, tough business. So that's one type of cooperative. And I've heard a lot of people say, oh, cooperative's no good. They go broke all the time. They're not, they don't do anything for you. And most of the time, if you come back to it, it's because they haven't been managed well and they didn't work as a good business first. The next type of co-op, which is probably in one regard the best type of cooperative, because what they do is provide a service. We call those service cooperatives. So back in the Midwest, you're looking at them. They receive your grain and clean it and store it, and they charge you an amount of money, and they probably then put it, manage it all the way to shipments. They either ship it back out to local people in truckloads, or they load rail cars and ship those all over the country, all over the United States. There are also a lot of those, what I call grain co-ops back there also, in addition to being a service co-op of doing all those other things for you. They also market your grain and incorporate yours with the rest of the members of the co-op, and they sell them, and you're part of that marketing as well as a service. So it's a combination of the two. And some of them, even on the third leg, will provide some supply to keep their people busy. So a lot of times these grain cooperatives will be all 3 of the ones we're talking about. Out here in California, we'll look at some things like service cooperatives can be first stage of processors. In the almond business, they can be an almond huller sheller, where they take field run almonds, take them run through their equipment, and all of your almond processors, need to have your product. Or I wouldn't say all. Some will also have their own service cooperative, but they aren't cooperatives. They have their own huller sheller, and then they market for you. They do kind of everything. They will very rarely ever be in the supply type, but they will market and do the service. But a straight service co-op will be someone that takes all of any type of marketing company, whether they be a co-op or for-profit marketing service. They bring their nuts to you. You basically hull and shell them, and then send them off to whoever your supply, marketer is, or shipping person that you have got your almonds sold through. And then that person can then make money if the service cooperative is profitable. And in that, there's lots of things. I don't want to get too far into the weeds, but if you get into walnuts, they have a walnut huller dehydrator. You have basically, they're too wet, so you have to dry them, as well as taking the green hull off of them before you ship them to whoever their marketer is. And pistachios are the same. So all the nut crops are kind of used to having these service type cooperatives. But if you're in a cooperative that does a service, they can basically take themselves and capitalize them over, say, 4 to 5 years, because in that particular environment, you have a product, the almond hulls and the almond shells, and you can actually market and sell those for livestock feed, for bedding, etc. So you can actually make them profitable. Then that profitability is put back to the growers in two forms. One, again, just like I talked that supply, in a good year, they can get a good patronage check, which is a percent of the profits, and then the rest of it goes into their revolving fund. And those revolving funds are usually anywhere from 4 to 7 years. Kind of 5 to 6 is kind of an average where they keep them, and that's a good number to keep them at, because you can then see in 4 to 5 years, I get a check back for my retains, and I put another retains into that thing. So it's a short enough period where you feel like your money's coming back to you. And in effect, it is, because there's a level of profitability in that service co-op that you can do every year. The third segment, and this is the one that probably gets the most press, because it's called a marketing co-op. You ship your product to them, then they take that and they might process it further in secondary, and they might do several things to it. They could do in what I talk about, the fresh fruit. They could basically slice it, put it into containers, and then ship it out as canned fruit. Or you can take almonds and take them there, and they can slice them, dice them. They can clean them up. They can roast them, blanch them, all kinds of things. But they're in basically the tough spot of their marketing your entire crop. So when they go under, meaning they don't run that good business first philosophy, and they make mistakes, and nobody's paying attention that the management is not fulfilling their requirements as running a good business, and don't get replaced, there's a lot of people that can lose a lot of money, and it's your whole crop. And if they lose all of your retains, it can be hundreds of thousands and even up into millions of dollars, depending on how large a grower you are. So you lose a lot, and that stings, and stings so many people so bad when it goes under, that marketing cooperative is tainting all types of cooperative making. As the co-op, it's no good. I don't want to belong in that. Well, I've belonged to good cooperatives that do a good job in marketing. Does that mean I get the most money every year? No. But if I'm with another supplier or another person that's handling my crop, does that mean I get the best price? Well, not always. So it's a balance of everything. But the cooperative is always, at least their intent is always grower focused, because the growers own the equity. And over the long term, you own the entire facility, through your retains, through your profitability. You are buying, or you are building, or you're adding on, or you're giving more services. It can be a really successful thing. But there's no magic to the co-op. Remember that. It has to run for a good business. If you're a marketing co-op, you could run everything right, but if you're poor marketers, in other words, you're not in the actual field to getting out there and taking your product in the right kind of sales ideas and the right kind of marketing technique and marketing campaigns, and are not successful, it can be really punitive. You're either not paying what everybody's paying, which isn't good particularly in low price years. So you always are trying to get the benefits and still be right at the top, above them or below them, but right there in a general area. and you'll be fine. And there's several in our states that have lasted a long time and done really good. But just because it's a cooperative and it fails doesn't mean it's any worse than if a business fails. We're talking right now the Del Monte bankruptcy that's going to leave a lot of growers out with processed fruits and vegetables that have no home. And that means the punishment for a bad business or bad business decisions or not adapting have led to all kinds of things in our agriculture industry. So everybody likes to blame the cooperatives because one of the things that you know about cooperatives that's different from private marketing businesses is it's a standard of the cooperative. They have to release their financial information to the public. One of the requirements. There's no hidden things behind it. You can be making tons of money and nobody knows it if you're a private firm, but you can if you're a cooperative. If you're making lots of money, your business will put it on their financials and it's available basically to everybody. So it's one of the things that's directly, and a lot of people have looked at cooperatives, all different kinds of cooperatives, and look at it as you keep a balance in the industry. You put a benchmark of everybody else has to do better than a cooperative, or people would say, well, I should just belong to the cooperative because they give me something back and you don't. And so what you have to do is you have to be in that range. So it keeps the rest of the market going forward all the time, trying to compete with a cooperative. Cooperative has to do a good job running a business or they don't compete. So it's always this back and forth. So it's usually very healthy as a grower, whether you're in the cooperative or not. It's a help to you. So hopefully, after talking about cooperatives for a while today, gives you a little bit of insight. All cooperatives are not the same. Some are destined to have short revolving cycles. That would be the marketing co-ops, usually the shortest, because they're handling a high volume at a lot of dollars. So just a few percent makes enough to operate on. Service cooperatives, a little longer, but still fairly tight. And then last, but your supply co-ops, they're holding on to your money quite a bit longer because they really don't make much money every year. So they have to have several years to make up their total operating capital. Hopefully that gives you a little insight to what cooperatives do for you and can do in the good side, as well as what to look for if they're not performing. So anyway, it's a good part of agriculture. It's been around for a long time, and it will continue to be around as long as it's successful for growers. So until next time, this is Bill Brush, and stay curious.
Thanks for another absolutely fantastic episode of Agriculture in a Nutshell, Bill. I'm sure that all of our listeners surely enjoyed having to hear all about how cooperatives work and the different types of cooperatives that there are. Make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and always stay curious.